On Tuesday, Riot dropped a B patch to balance out the meta, and in this video, we'll take a look at how that affected the meta and my strategy for climbing on patch 12.4b. To quickly look over the patch, Bruiser Renata got hit quite hard, as its mid-game is a lot weaker now with the Sejuani and Rek'Sai nerfs, and Renata herself got nerfed. Sivir and Hextech also got hit incredibly hard with nerfs, and Silco also got nerfed, so now he isn't the powerhouse he was before the B patch. These changes result in a new tier list. I base this on my own experience, what the top challengers are playing, and also what the data says about each comp. I've also color-coded the damage sources of each comp to make it easier to see what type of damage is the most prominent in the meta. I'll also elaborate more on how to play these comps towards the end of the video. In S tier alone, we have Innovators. This comp is incredibly dominant and you will farm top 4s if you play this comp. It didn't get nerfed as hard as the other meta comps last patch, resulting in Innovators surging to S tier alone. In A tier we have Renata Brusiers. It didn't get hit hard enough with nerfs to become unplayable, which is nice to see as now it's just a strong comp and not OP anymore. Twitch Reroll grew in power as it didn't get nerfed. The only issue with this comp is that it requires a specific openers and items for it to do well, but if you have that opener and those items, it's incredibly powerful if you hit fast enough. Talon Reroll has a similar story to Twitch, and both of these comps also play really well into Innovators, which is why they climbed to A tier. Mutants are still really strong depending on what the synergy of the mutant trait is. The strongest synergies are mana reduction, execute on 20% HP, and gain AP and AD on death. Ashe Reroll got more solved and also benefits from more reroll comps in the meta. This is nice to see as she felt quite useless before people solved her itemization. In B tier we have Hextech Sivir. Since both Sivir and Hextech got nerfed quite hard, she fell all the way down to B tier. Riot hit her a little too hard, so now there might be better ways of playing Sivir carry than with Hextech. But you can still climb with it if you have the right opener and items. 6 Yordles are a lot more consistent now with Corki as the carry, and I have climbed a fair amount playing this comp. The only thing holding it back is that it's very reliant on augments. Irelia has a ton of variations. You can play her in 6 Striker, 6 Scrap, and also 3 Socialite. However, she struggles into a lot of Bruisers and Bramble Vests, and is overall too weak to go any higher than B tier. I've still had a fair lot of success with Ahri, and I think it's being undervalued a little bit in the current meta, although people have caught a little bit more onto it. I mostly play this comp when I have to pivot away from Innovators. If there is a comp I did not mention, it's a comp that is C tier or lower. In other words, it's a comp I wouldn't recommend you play. Now moving on to my strategy for climbing on this patch, if we look at the meta, it's less AP dominant than last patch, but the strongest AD comps are reroll comps. Because of this, bodyguards continue to not be as great, especially since both Twitch and Ashe really want Last Whisper in their itemization. In general, I always default towards AD reroll, and then I play something else if I get different openers and items for that. I now start Glove on the first carousel. This is because Twitch, Talon, and Ashe all need 2 gloves to finish their builds. Gloves are overall really useful as they make powerful items like Banshee's Claw and Jewel Gauntlet for Innovators as well. If I get an early Twitch 2 stars or a lot of units for the Twitch reroll comp, I will go for a 5 loss streak to build up an economy so I can start rerolling as soon as possible. The ideal opener for that is 2 Assassin with 3 Innovators, or with 3 Chemtech. If I don't get the Twitch opener, I like to level aggressively and play towards Talon or Ashe if I have more bows and swords for them. For Talon, you really like to have an early Talon and some Assassins in your opener, and for Ashe you want Snipers and Syndicates in your opener. If I get more AP items, I will play towards Innovators if I have some of the Innovator units early, and if I don't, I will play towards Ahri or Mutants. If I go the AP route, I always try to hit the 3 Yordle opener. Now let's talk about how to play all the comps mentioned. I will make in-depth guides on most of these at some point, so if you want to learn more about any of these comps, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Starting with the Innovators, here you are running Seraphine as the main carry, and the rest of the units provide utility or frontline. Sojin and Morello are core items on Seraphine, and the third item is any damage item. Banshee's Claw is also great in this comp to make sure you can quarter Seraphine to make sure that she heals as many units as possible. Orianna and Jace can be itemized as secondary carries as well, depending on your items. As for augments, Innovator, Heart, or Soul is fantastic to hit that dragon. In that case, replace Senna or Vi for Ezreal to get 7 Innovators in. Also, any augments that buff up the back 2 rows like Backfoot and Fallox are great as it's where most of our units are being placed anyways. Next up is Bruiser Renata. This comp is 6 Bruisers plus Renata, then you play Victorin for 3 Chemtech. Your main carry is Renata, her only core item is Morello, then you want Blue Buff for Sojin as your second item, and Gunblade or Hodge as your third item. Throw AP or tank items on Vi, and once you hit Tahm Kench, throw AP and tank items on him as well. The goal is to get to level 8 as fast as possible so you have a realistic chance of hitting Tahm Kench for 6 Bruisers. And if you are able to make it to level 9, add in Silco for 2 Scholars. As for augments, anything that buffs up Bruisers is insane in this comp. Blue Battery is also fantastic as it makes Vi only need 1 auto to cast, and it also makes Renata need 1 less auto before she casts again as well. Next up is Twitch Reroll. This comp's a lot stronger this set as we get a built-in assassin with Echo, you slow roll at level 5 for 3-star Twitch and Camille with this board minus Renata, Seraphine, and Zillion. Items for Twitch are standard AD items. We need IE to make sure we get value out of the assassin crit damage. Last Whisperer is great as he is all AD damage, and Hurricane is great so we can spread out and deal damage to multiple carries. Throw tank items on Camille and utility items on Echo. As for augments, we want any healing augments to get more healing on Twitch. Featherweights is also nutty in 1-cost rerolls, and other damage augments like Ludens, Backfoot, or Knife's Edge also work great. Next up is Reroll Talon. It has the same playstyle as Imperial Talon from last set, so if you want to learn more about it, I recommend you watch that video. Items are the same with RFC, IE, and a healing item with Hodge or BT. Slow roll at level 6 for 3 stars with this board minus Silco and Braum. Mutants are played a little differently based on what the trait is that game. The only variations I like are Mana Rejection, Execute, and gain AD or AP on death. You want to end up with this board at level 8 with every single variation. From there, you try to 3-star Malzahar and Cho'Gath to win the game. If not, you play for a top 4 unless you get Kaisa with good items. Malzahar wants Blue Buff and Gumbly to heal himself up and Cho'Gath, and Morello is great as a 3rd item to make sure that units actually die. Cho'Gath wants Redemption and 2 other tank items. Kaisa can be itemized if you 2-star her, but that is quite rare at level 8. As for augments, anything to do with mutants is great. Second Wind is insanely strong to give Cho'Gath more than half of his HP back, and Blue Battery is nice to make Malzahar cast even more often. Next up is Ashe Reroll. I'm making an in-depth guide on this later, so I won't talk too much about it here. You slow roll with this board at level 6 minus Silco and Orianna, and we would play Caitlyn until you hit Jhin. Items for Ashe are IE and Last Whisper, and the 3rd item is Rageblade or another AD item like GS or Deathblade. As for augments, Syndicate Heart is great as you can go for 7 Syndicates or drop Syra for a better unit. Featherweights to boost attack speed and Trade Sector to hit faster. Next up is Hextech Sivir. Her items are still the same with Shiv and Rageblade as the core items, and then QSS or another mixed damage item as the 3rd one. She will be dealing a lot of AD with her spell, but she will also be dealing a ton of AP with her Hextech trait. The goal is to get to level 8 with this comp, and if you get to level 9, add in Silco for Mastermind to buff up Sivir even faster. As for augments, you want anything to buff up Hextech units, and also healing augments for Sivir. Next up is Ahri. With this comp, you want to get to level 8 to hit all your 4-cost 2-stars. Make sure to always have Ahri on the 3rd row, as then she can reach the enemy backline with her spell, and might one-shot some of the enemy carries at the start of the fight. Blue buff is essential for Ahri. This comp is close to unplayable without it, and then you add 2 more damage items on her like Joe Gauntlet and IE, Deathcap, Archangels, or Giant Slayer. I only like running 5 Syndicate if I get +1, as then you can place Renata for Morgana to get that in. As for augments, Blue Battery is insanely strong, and anything to do with Syndicates is also nice, and more damage augment like Jeweled Lotus or Luden's Echo is also great. Next up is 6 Yordles. I already made an in-depth guide on this, so I won't go too in-depth on it, but you first slow roll at level 5 for 3-star Ziggs and Poppy, then at level 6 until you hit 3-star Corki as well, and then at level 7 with this board until you have all 6 3-star Yordles. At level 8, add in Senna, Orianna, Braum, or Veigar depending on what you need. Items for Corki are the same as for Ahri. You need blue buff and then 2 damage items. Throw tank items on Vex, and a Banshee's Claw is also nice to be able to corner the Corki. As for augments, anything to buff up Yordles is great. Healing augments are also great to keep Corki alive, and other damage augments are also fantastic in this comp. Next up is Irelia. The best version of this comp is still the 3 Socialite version. You need to get to level 8 and then end up with this board. As for items, we want IE and Last Whisper to make sure we don't get stuck on tanks, and then QSS is great to not get CC'd. We get healing through 3 Socialites, so we don't need a healing item on her. Throw your tank items on Vi or Jace depending on who you 2-star first. As for augments, anything to buff up Socialites and Strikers is great, and stuff like Knife's Edge or Backfoot is great depending on where the Socialite hex is. Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below what video you want me to make next, and if you want to get better at TFT, join the Discord. We got over 7,000 other players there who are hungry to climb, and if you want to get coached by me, the information is over on the Discord server as well. So take care, and see you in the next video.